ʼatudli.át, Woosh hayati, tlingit Johan. Yachana, question cat ʼatángi ʼatí, yewe ʼatúasagu cho'achi. Dach tsu ʼatudli.át, nask. Asayi tuasagu Johan. Swanton shkalnigi, genki dat yejigachtuné. Tlaik, tleshi tuashku tlasa oti. We tlaika ilantin, tuasagu kautua aku. Du ʼatángi aya gachtusa achi, gachtushahi dasa wutu ach. Aka awe gachtunik. Tlet kainach. Kayat etsu. Future. Wasa utka kone atatu yejigachtune. Yewe tuasagu. Reshukwa ayakoa. Tlingit chinach wushu ʼatudli.át. Hechosagu ʼatudli.át koa. Gwall ʼatudli.át yejine ʼatudli.át tiudatan. Yayagi. One qanins just ha hit yi hana teach. Just ha tuasagu atwatu kuchu. Tlikadir. Gwall jagut atchai hatuati. Kejini nachawe uhan yag. Echosagu wanach saya kunach away. Kautu chuk. We sich. Plain sich. Joya just the cut with sich ayawushech. Joy one kanin zach tuasagu. Pucker Wilson Khande wutu kuch. Zeraldas hajitas awati hastu atchai. Jagut atchai one kanin zach tuasagu. Yewa adewa tu kuch yayagi ka khosatin khachtin ish ka gwall isani atasfuat yuch aka away we jindaha kuch daka hiti de tu kuch akaya plain kuch aya politicians has to jidach kunach away khwatid Akawe dati tuchtatan. One nach's away just the cut we ask Kwani ayachi kashi yejni yes. Yeah, like Dan Sullivan, Yisikuke, Al Gross, Yata Yachyati, Al Gross, Yisikuke, Dan Sullivan, Yata Yachyati. Ha Judech Johan. Keshach Tuashku Yisachwachi. Hechwasa Otiqwa. Kleatge we at Yahai Kakshahit Jen Kat Hake Jin Achji, which is Tlekigi, the Katasu Gs, Yage we cook too. Just Uski cook what Achji has Achtuasagu. Ach has Ausu Hetwasauti, ye aware a day has Kunugu, yeah. Politician got Teshasai Kudzati. Has Woosh we and what government soon. What's a gachtusa? That's called government. No. Okay. Politician for dasa. Scoutly. Quashi. Tesh kashat the honey. Chalk. Tlingit aye. Kashat the honey. Nashat the honey. Nashat the nakki. Kashat the nakki. Ya yidet ko ahechasako. We a kakuduzati yukatank has ashyech. A ka away a dot has yaza we judge. A ka away washdan kwan shatahani ka ginjichwan kwan shatahani. Hechosaku helach twa ashko asai has to yet with two asa shatahani. A joey tesh. Has ours Tlingit. But Tlingit Chinach ʼatudli.át President Xati Guk. Kunachawe ha shatahani away. Has caught Tesh has our Guk. Kagwat Tesh has to toa Ushku. Hayu ʼatángi has our achi. Or has our Saku. Yoe Chosatin Kwa we Justin Trudeau we Haida. We Adekat Kadijihiti yet to Giewuti. duchik a kachawe kaudutsa ka. Hechwasaku gwallach tuasaku ko adujiwu. Ha itake udishi we de kina ku. Gwallclaig hechwasaku ko a hechwasaku ginjichuan. Politicians just washed on Juan Puu. Tlingit telhasushka. Echosaku. Just wait the dad you took the ten koa. ʼatudli.át. Yo a dad aya yuch ach the tanya yegi ach ish has ani. A day has kunuguya yuch yupik ya ach ish do ish away. Yupik husatien. Ka do ish koa. English, Adam Hollis Twitchell, you do a sagu. You do sagan away. Who away? Woosh the Kaséix, Kanach away where you pick teen. Tlingit ach Kate away. Do GA wutiin. Who away our has to Gidach. Tlingit way museum. Echosaku ʼatudli.át. ʼatudli.át. Ako atlechas atu, jaguda atuye titsu. Wash kaje iti dake hiti. Atlein aye iti ajawe du ye jene ap. Ya achlich gutlein ach ish du ish. Je awecho ach zu ach ish du ish. Kindergarten naska de hina kawa ak. Kella yawa dlak koa. De koa tlatuko. Du ina kawanik gug, dlek kak einach yuchatan. Hukoa, klek. Yuchten, ja yuchten nach tuasaku. Yupik yuchatangi. Dewa ach tu yuk eeda. Adisa du tuasaku yuchewatani yidet koa. Adasada. Twasa. Dasa yi tuasaku dat yejitune ya yidet.
Ach tuasaku ach datani.
Chish.
Adasa. Screen share kukwa ak. Can you see it okay?
Khasati.
Okay, chish. Actuasigu ni inka kunigi ʼatudli.át. Kaséix ka Auntie Liz, you do a sock. That's what I'm going to say. Kokatan shao awe. Gushuk jinklad ka dak tauk dukatagu yek gwati. Dusagu yagi yek gwati sandi katsku. Shitzin ka tushi on ach tauk kunach. Mayati yek tushi wooch so wood saga slesh dutua ushko. What hooch we?
Gan cheese shain kinigi ʼatudli.át.
I think maybe she's the oldest person in Teslin now. She's going to be 94 on Saturday.
Okay.
Cheese.
Well, sheesh.
Hatsugwaf yayagi ye jituane keishiin kunach yake gwaf dech disi slech ye jitune gwaf slech ye jitune let me see. I'm getting stuck here. Sorry. Kautushahit, Wishkafnik, Yel Duslitsin, Duslik, Adat. Ka Kayeshi, Kunach, Yeke Yukatangi, Hajin, Hajit, Hajit, Maya Tiyek, Ayachwe Wanganins, Chas Yayagi, Hwashiguk Adat, Maya Tiyek, Chagut Yuktangitsu. Yeah. So I was trying to say it's the first time we've worked with Kaséix for a while, and it was great. And she's giving us some great language. That's yeah, just wonderful. What to see how a speaker speaks, you know. So yeah,
Okay, achtu yake du inyeji ni wasa khasakhan du dat yu tuchtatan qatu khakh tuchtatan du jide ach achsu klayatke yewa hatu wasagugwal wuchi nyeje gachtu ne tlakatuhan we uski kukhu tutlayech we adatki hastu jiyes just chaye kukenki Kutzati yag we has our shaguk a day aya yuk ʼatudli.át ha a day kadujahidiyah ha ʼatángi Kaséix a kachunach our shaguk chidechi hatu wasagu klecha away dana dujit gachtuti we Tlingit ka day kina yudu sago at achtu asagu day kina ka Tlingit hetwasa ticho ya hasitu asagu we du inyeji tu nei aka awe gwash wujin gahi tu weskashlik ha ina kawanik data tinach sayati ya khanakhoy iltakat we yuqatank das chayeku kinki awu tu saku wujin we kay na khaqo agosh kay hasu what has to yuqatangi tin aqaqnakhoy has au shaguk ye awa gwashiat ayach das de ya khanakawanik ja ʼatudli.át ye tu uchan awa aqa kay tu what ha yuqatangi tin ye awa khwach Ajoy Kadain has Aushaguk, a day you has ʼatudli.át ye Tlingit yach, yewa hatuati. Acho atsu, Tliltzidain has to inyeji winay, one kanins acho Khan has to tu yeti, hechwasaku one nachsaya, kautua achaya has to inyeji tu nay, ke hasu one kanins ha in. Yeah, Kaséix a tlaig tlagoi just tilla an at yawane an awayeji wane joy ʼatúli'át du inyeji wane ka has du dat ayutucht tan adusa gus has du khana das has du nakhaswa adi kausles ekwa yewe achtuasa good just tlakoy has du da ye hanna tiji aqa away tlachtuas go kudach has wutletish Gwallisa ku we tlek aqoyaw da hayi kachshit we Kaséix ka jinaak judach nach a sheet kach e hawuti Mount Edge community osak Woosh goon chak owe akewuti hashil kohas koatlatuku tashatua osku yiyu ʼatángi nach ayu kai atkiak tlek Majoy at one kanins tlhastu tua osku a yike haswuti Ake hawutin koa akaya ya wutu he Tlingit immersion hatuasaku tasayuk ʼatángi kutustin Ye awe koa we jinaak awe du khana just wake out Teshu Teshi koat aya adach awe du nakhugudi Haina kawanik Tatke aya akhwajun Ya akhana akhant wagut Takat akhna ati du kunachaya kawachakwe atla atitin Khana kawanik Hakushat Achin kaki that Kewzagit Kanachu Ach Haina Kawani Kahutsu the Katuhan with two Ach Yechwajian Kukwanayan Tatke Yechwajian do Tuasagu do in Kukwagudi Ako Acha Anawe Yekhat Yati Kanachoy Haswach Yashidzi away Ya Tuasagu Hain Hasakawani Gensu Das Datiachsa Widow you do sago at Yara to play aya Hasakawa a koach to us go that you has Hausha Atkin Tlingit Renach Hasakawa Akzu Kaséix Hutsu do Hochaya do Nakas do Nakua aya Yewa a it just Dekach Shahit Ka Hucha Yeah, got is a teen just for ne aya and a wekoya the high. Kacha ach litzin tin has to in you ach the tan. And joy with two ach. We go. We take we yeast shawat, glade shawat hutsa. Ha in husatin. Just do toss a go high a kaushahit. Do jiwu aya chwahits. Kesh achwabus a dat. A joy kesh ach ewuti. Just achtu asagu has to day ewuti. We who. What we koya the high is a team. Who has to take ewuti. Keshi kuwat. What nask jinkat when it's. We koya the high kachshit. Ka achtu wu jay gen cow the hit. Wasa has wukach da. Aka away we eat the katach chogut. We do we is shawat nach an den. Keo ach ide. Ach ayi ayatlach to ashka. He see kachat usia da. Glade chach enach. Just sukak kwashahit koa. Aka away do inkachoni. In yuch akwatan a it. Aka away hin chashat. We shak has to jis. Aka away Chonachawe has to hate chasach. A datu tuchtatan. Wasa do ide kakwane kandane. A it Yan khatu ne kutlagao tin. Yewe yan yejitune. Aka adachwagu. Kwalchakuta ko adu in yuche watan. Kash ayach uti. Ade yuche watani ye hain. Aka we iti kadachwagut. Hoko atlet kak enache oka. Ja ade khatna. Ade khatna. Khatka yekwati. Kashweta yachu khatan ko akhin. Islakheit laya. Khonakwe khasakhan. Has khasakhan ka akhtu wasagu has tu khan ki khatbuti. Ya kaya yeji neha in. Itu agasiku ha yahai kaishikiti. Uhan ka ha ʼatángi.át yeji tu nehi. Kash ai ayayak. Yawe akhtu wasagu in kakhoniki. Ade kutushagawo ye one kanins. Chish. Tukka, chagutatka. One kanins akhtu wasagu just wuchin you ʼatudli.át. Get khinach chish. I don't know if that girl will watch this video, but it was I was ready to fight. I don't know if you guys like, so the summary, in case you didn't catch parts of that. So we were filming these two elders, and the video's up there on YouTube, and I just want to give some folks some backstory to that video. One of the elders had recently lost her husband and said, we're getting ready to make this film, and I was kind of pushing elders at that time to talk about just some different stuff that's a little challenging. Like one time I asked Kaséix and ʼatudli.át to talk about women having babies and stuff, and that's kind of sensitive. And it was really interesting because they start off by talking about hunting and what kind of work they had to do when they were growing up. And initially I thought, oh, this is great. Whatever they give me is great, but they don't want to do what I asked them to do, right? Which is fine. But then after a while, they just switched and started talking about it. So it's almost like they just had to start with something they were comfortable with. And the exact same thing happened here. So I asked them, because they were both recently widowed, to say, it might be hard, but it'd be really wonderful if you could talk about what it's like to carry on and how we did that long time ago, because it's valuable stuff in our language. And so before we even got started, one of them said, I had a dream about my husband. He came to me and he had my suitcase packed and he said, it's time for you to go. And she was crying and everybody was crying. There's three of us in this little room. And she said, I thought I was gonna die. I thought he came because I was gonna die. And it's a real serious, I think about that stuff every time, like one of our elders loses their spouse and how much we need to surround them, just be with them. And so it was like a super serious moment. So I went to just go get him some water and stuff. And I had borrowed somebody's equipment without asking them, which is not always a good thing to do. But someone was there taking photos of us at this language immersion for some promotional event. So I borrowed the little backdrop thing that she had so I could hang a blanket from it and just have a nice, because it was someone's trashy looking office in this little school. And so I stepped out like from them crying in that super intense moment to this young girl who wasn't there for the language, who wasn't part of our group, she was yelling at me in front of people for borrowing her stuff. And I said, it's just gonna be like 20 minutes. I'm sorry I didn't ask, you weren't here. I said, I just needed to hang a blanket, that's all. And I said, I'm gonna talk to you about this later. And then we went in and I watched them. They've made this fabulous video and they started off talking about just foods. And then they turned and then they started talking about this thing that I asked them about in the same way. And I was listening to them, but that whole time I was thinking about how I'm gonna go fight with this, not like physically, but I'm gonna go give her the scolding of a lifetime. And I was like, I'm gonna say this, and then this, and then this. And then when we were done and I was just really trying to take care of our elders. And I walked out the door and then she was just like, up and down. So someone must have talked to her because she was so sorry. And then I just said, I just talked to her about, this isn't your thing and you can't bring your vibes in here like that. So well, it was fun. I always think about how we argue in the language too, because like Not that I want that to happen, but we've got to have the, we're going to know how to say those things. Right? Okay, what do you folks want to do? We got the future, we got the Swanton story, and then I got a little listening, transcription, translation exercise for us. That's very fun.
I vote for fun.
Oh, for fun, okay. Okay, so I have this little bit of audio that there's some kids in the background, you'll hear it. So this is Elan, which I'm not sure if every one of us have worked in Elan. I'm sure some of us have. Oops, let me fix some things on here, see if I can zoom in, try to make the font bigger. Sometimes there's video, this has no video. But basically, when you import stuff into Elan, it allows you to basically, like you can listen to something, so you highlight something and you listen to it. Oh, I think I gotta share, I don't think I shared my audio. Hold on, let me try this again. So you can listen to it. And so what I'm hoping is, basically I'll just try and guess where something is. And then I'll have you, if we can go one at a time, I'll take a turn. And I would like you, this is gonna kind of depend on how well you can, what your keyboard situation might be and stuff. But it'd be great if you could type what you hear and then if you could translate it for us. That way we can take a look at how we're doing in terms of what we hear, what we write, and how we translate it. So it's a bit of a live exercise. This recording is about 2.5 minutes long. And Jacques has some things that we might just work on for a while too, and just make it part of our regular routine. So this is kind of practice for potentially doing that, because there's a whole bunch of stuff out there that hasn't been transcribed and translated. Some of it's conversations, some of it's short clips like this, and so this is sort of like if an elder, if you have a moment where an elder is like telling you something, record it if you can, like ask them if it's okay, try and tell them what you're gonna do with that, like we're gonna use this for classes or whatever, and then you can come through later and write down what they said. And so that's what we're going to practice here. So we'll just grab a chunk and just listen. Okay, so we'll just do this chunk first. Who wants to go first? What you're going to do is you're going to listen to it and you're going to write in the chat what you think you heard and then translate it.
I'll give it a shot.
Okay. And there's the thing right there. It's probably just this part.
Oops.
And if you think it's faster, you can also tell me how to type it too. I'm fine with that.
I'm not sure about that kunach, but very, but at, I'm not sure about that. I couldn't hear the ending on that. If it's
kunach, I would probably call that a false start. Like I would probably just write kunach, because she was probably going to say something and then.
Okay. All right. Did you say tunach or kunach?
Kunach.
I still did.
It's
Oh, okay. Okay. So really or very?
Mm-hmm.
So,
And so as you're doing this kind of stuff too, you might find that you start to write it and then you go and you'll get the whole phrase and then you got a decision to make. Do you now adjust it? Do you drag this whole thing over so that it's now a phrase? And these, as you become translators and documenters, it's gonna be kind of up to you. But we'll see what comes next. Let me find where the
ʼatángi.át ʼatángi.át.
So I'll just do that part. Someone else wants to take that. Yeah, on the 8th.
There we go. ʼatángi, and I'm probably it's so our language. And here is how you spell it.
Okay.
I'm never sure about the YUU if it's IOO. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a pinch, ʼatángi.
Yeah. So Haida has the U's. It goes from a U to 2 U's.
I knew that. No, I'm kidding.
It's from a U to 2 O's. So that's
Okay.
our language. Okay. I'm just going to isolate this part right here. So I want to take that one.
well, it's a dach. Eh? Adach. Okay. That's what it is. Oh, there's probably no W. How are we going to translate this part?
Would that be around it? We care for it.
Yeah, okay. So there's a number of places we can go. So once we're hearing the sort of verb root in there, perhaps, a good place to go would be here. I'll show you how to get there through here and also through the verb dictionary and then through the other dictionary I've been working on. So if we go down to talk, we see care for, then we see dot, yasatak, to take care of something. And then we might sort of open this up. Let me see, dot, how yasatak. Oh, but it wasn't short, right? So once we see yasatak, we should know that's a 0 verb that's closed. Oh yes, it is, look at that. The perfective negative, that one is long and low, but I didn't hear any kind of tesh or tish or hesh or anything like that. Yeah, I was talking, used to, I didn't hear that form. The yaguch satak, I didn't hear the future form in there. There's a hortative. It was long and low, but I didn't hear the part in there. I didn't hear ch on the end. It didn't get super long. ʼatudli.át I didn't hear that. But I go down. No, I didn't hear this NI. I didn't hear this IN. Oh, but I did hear this. Dach hayasatach. Oh, okay. So I see chat yasatach and yasatach. And I see dach. So there it is. So in that case, how would I translate it?
Is it the third person? They take care of him or her?
When we go back, we're hearing adach hayasatach. So a couple things, yasatach. So I'm going to change the classifier. And then this tells you, so we go back to the theme. We see O, the object, for object pronoun to care for. So here's one of these verbs where it's an object pronoun, but that's who's actually doing it. And you're gonna run into that now and then, right? This is just something that Tlingit does sometimes. So for example, if you wanted to say, I take care of my grandchild, you could use this one down here. You'd say, du dach chat yasatach. But in this case, we have dach ha yasatach. So the is it. We take care of it. Because that's what the is. It's a third person, non-human. And then ha yasatach is we do that. So the other places where you could go and find this same verb, although we might not have the same, I don't know what's going on. I'm getting some Zoom messages. Can you still hear me? Okay, that was getting weird. Hold on. Let me see what happened. Okay, so we go back to here and we'll go down to, we'll do the same thing. We'll go look up that verb root that we heard, talk. It's bigger. So here's T, we go E, A, U, A, talk. So here we get like, there's one talk that's poking something, but then we get another one down here that's to care for. And as they write it, ka, da, yasatach, ada, yasatach. So we'll look for care for and just sort of see what we get. So it's here, ʼatudli.át. I cared for my grandchild. My mother is taking care of, so ʼatudli.át. So we get a couple of examples in here, but it doesn't always show us all the different modes, right? And so as we're sort of trying to figure those things out, and this is a repetitive imperfective, the one that we're seeing. So then if we look this up in this dictionary, which is here. So we'll go down to the verb section. We'll go look for talk. We get spear, and we get to care for. And then this would also have all the sentence examples from the verb dictionary. And then it won't have all of the modes from Carrie's work, but it'll have this one. I really just focused on like do it, don't do it, did it, didn't do it, will do it, won't do it. So just kind of those 6 is the only things that I sort of, because, you know, her work is her work. And so, but here's that. So that as we go back to the Elan document, right? And there's different ways. Like, we take care of it, we care for it. It's open to interpretation. But that's what, as we sort of, then we can look back and say, "Chunach hayuch ʼatángi, adach hayasatach." Right? And so I got to change this to an A. Okay.
ʼatudli.át.
I'm probably going to do this whole thing right here.
ʼatudli.át. ʼatángi. ʼatudli.át. ʼatángi. ʼatudli.át. ʼatángi. ʼatudli.át. ʼatángi.
What do you think, folks?
ʼatudli.át. ʼatángi. ʻatudli.át. ʻatángi.
Sorry, is she talking about a basket like cock, or is it something else?
Something else. And so it goes together with dach. So
It kind of sounds like the first word is related to the other one, but the first time it's long, long, and then short.
ʻatángi. ʻatudli.át. ʻatángi.
So we get a bit of a false start. So like as she's putting these things together. So there's these kind of two words you could put in front of a verb. So there's this, it's a bit of an adverb sort of area. And so usually, so they go together like this. And this one, like, there might be different ways that you're going to hear it.
ʻatudli.át. ʻatángi.
And so, like, you could certainly argue that this W is not really coming through. But these two things that pop up together, and then the dach isn't always there, but this part is usually there. And that means it could have one of two kind of general uses. One is a mistake, and the other is a violation. And so it kind of depends. And so there's a number of different stories where this might come up, where someone says, oh yeah, they did this thing mistakenly, where they made a huge error. So it's not always like a huge error, but in this case, it's some sort of mistake or something like that.
ʻatudli.át. ʻatángi.
And what about, and then that gets us to the verb.
That tonga part.
Mm-hmm.
Is it kedatán? Is that what she kedatán? Idatan.
That's what I'm.
ʼatángi.
It might be long, but ʼatángi. And so this G has an underline on it.
ʼatángi.
On that ʼatángi, would that be you're speaking or conversing? Is that ga?
So I guess I would probably say like lest you make a mistake while in your speaking. Something like that, right? So you're gonna, so what this qa is doing is it's sort of tying these other concepts to what we had sort of just talked about. So it's sort of like coming back, like we really take care, we really tend to, we really serve to. There's a number of different ways we can interpret this first one. It's like we really take care of our language, lest you make a mistake when you're speaking. So that what she's doing, she's tying these two concepts together, right?
Could the last part be written with the ga as a separate word, or would that change it entirely? Does it always go?
Yeah, so like when qa is sort of on its own, which would usually sometimes be a high tone, that usually means like pleasant. So like if it's its own word, and I think in this case it's probably a suffix, then you get like qayati, and that one's more related to like tuqa and eqa, so things like that. So there is this other qa, but I think it's a different one than this one.
Goodness, geez.
Mm-hmm.
ʼat.
Has anyone not tried it yet? Do you want to try it out? Tell me what you're hearing.
I think she said ʼatudli.át.
And how would we translate that?
All.
Yes, the cut is all. And then when ut comes after it, so like the cut on its own is all, but it tends to be one of these words that tends to attach to something. So like the cut yeqa, the cut yede, the cut at, the cut ka.
Everything?
Yeah. So that's what the ut is. So it's like all thing, and then you get everything. All people, you get everybody. Okay. So she repeats it, right?
How do you say spirit? tlakadad ayak ohaya go kudziti.
So I'll give you the first part.
Everything has a spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
How am I gonna? What should I type? Somebody tell me what to type.
Should I type it?
Mm-hmm. Or type it in the chat.
So yay, can you play it again? Just the sounds.
tlakadad ayak ohaya go kudziti. tlakadad ayak ohaya go kudziti. Lakadad ayak kahaya go kudziti.
Kudziti. Kudzitee.
Oops, what's that one doing there? I think we should separate that. Okay. If you look at the front of this word, you'll see a future form. It's a verb. Yakwa. Everything has a spirit. Okay. See what comes next.
Yeuha in kadanigin hahish kahasju. Yeuha in kadanigin hahish kahasju.
It's a bit of noise in the background.
Hish kahasju. Yeuha in kadanigin hahish kahasju.
So yeah.
Yeuha in kadanigin hahish kahasju. Yeuha in kadanigin hahish kahasju.
Oh, sure.
Yeuha in kadanigin hahish kahasju. Yeuha in kadanigin hahish kahasju. Yeuha in kadanigin hahish kahasju. Yeuha in kadanigin hahish kahasju.
Oops. And what's the last part?
Hasju.
What's the translation? Or how could we interpret it? Like there's just one answer.
Our grandparents always used to tell us.
So you might expect like a CH on the end of that or something, or Nugent. And that's where the always would sort of would probably chime in. And interpreting this stuff is always interesting because you could say like, that is to us, it was told, or it used to be told, then our grandparents did it. So it's really interesting to see the choices that speakers make. And this shows you sometimes the flexibility of the language. That could be a third person plural. It's a possessive form. You know, so like it used to be told to us. And so, but then you'll see that fourth person popping up, like, this is how it was told to us. This is how we were taught. Even if you named who did it afterwards, you're still often getting a fourth person. Okay.
To us, kateh. To us, kateh. To us, kateh. To us, kateh.
Two is like off the tree.
Right, us in there.
Os.
Cut.
Can you play it again?
kate, to us, kate,
Tu os kate.
And what's the first part?
Tu. TSU.
ʼatudli.át.
Oh, yeah.
Under.
Are we going to translate that?
The trees and rocks. Rock and trees. Os is trees and te is the rock.
Even.
Awesome.
Oh. You know, we've got decisions to make.
Mhm.
he the cut that ayakohego kudziti. He the cut that ayakohego kudziti. He the cut that ayakohego kudziti. He the cut that ayakohego kudziti.
Is that first word heen?
Yeah, heen, the cut, ut. So as we sort of go through, there's a couple things, like I want to backtrack here and look at this word. Okay. So, and then sort of if I listen to this, I'm like, oh, well, I think this is kind of a whole thing, right? Like where's the speech act begin and end?
To us, kate. He the cut that ayakohego kudziti.
So like as you sort of go through and segment this, where you say, here's the thing where I'm going to write something. There's sometimes some just decisions to make in terms of this, is there enough of a pause that I should sort of break it into two chunks? And then if I do, how do I translate those two pieces into flow? For this, I would probably say, okay, let's do this. Ask, let's put a comma there. Also, please. And then I'm going to change the English because now there's these other things that are just part of, they're extending the same thought.
He the cut that ayakohego kudziti.
If I do, can you folks see that pop-up window on there? Do you see like change tier attributes?
No, it's not on there.
No?
Not on the screen anyway.
Let me try this. So let me try sharing the whole screen. And then I'm going to go to tier, change tier attributes. I'm going to go to more options. I'm going to go to tier fonts. And I'm going to change this to Braille because I like that font. Change it to Braille Roman. Apply. Apply. I'm going to say all of them.
Change it to the Tlingit font.
The super Tlingit font.
Can you make it a little bigger?
Now I can go to the font size And I'll make it a little bigger. So I want to do this so that we can see the underline on the G. It's not perfect, but I think this needs to be low tone. And I think there is an underline on that second G. And if you just listen to her. I hear it. But and the reason I think so is because there's this it means to remove something, and it's certainly there. And so this certainly looks like a verb that becomes a noun. And then as we go through, we'll say also the trees, comma, rocks, comma, water. And punctuation and stuff, you get some decisions to make, right? So you could say also the trees, rocks, water, comma, there is a spirit in everything. That's how I would sort of approach it. But so as you go forward with your own projects and your translations and your work, you might think about it kind of differently perhaps. But then this is where we can argue about it sometimes. It's all good. Let me turn
ʻatudli.át.
Oh,
Is it a SH? Yeah.
It is.
Underlined X?
yeah.
It's like a game show. Can I get an underline X? Can I get a bing, bing,
I want to go now.
We'll even throw in an apostrophe for you. You have a
And a A? And a D?
Goose away, Vanna.
oh yeah, ʼatudli.át. ʼatudli.át. Can you show us a D?
US.
Pinch T? I'm not sure though.
Kaséix.
IX pinch?
Oops. There might be one more. Y'all hear it?
K.
Probably an X. Underline X. All right, so that's a very good one. It's very good listening, everybody. Now, yeah, we used up all of our money on that one. So how are we going to translate this one? Where should we go?
Did ʻatudli like then?
Not so much then. That would be like
Okay.
away.
Okay.
What about ʼatudli.át? What does that usually tie us to?
Because of this, kind of.
Oh, because. Ah.
ʼatjaya, I would say, is because of this. ʼatudli.át is because of that. It's just more
Ah.
ya and we sort of things that we keep extending.
How about therefore?
Oh, therefore, yeah. Well, that could be. So the ʼatj tends to be a little bit more of a because. And so I think therefore is totally fine. But when I hear ʼatjaway, it's usually like, this is the way things are because of that, this other thing. So it's usually a little bit more like tying something just to what we heard. So I think therefore is totally fine. But if I were doing the translate, I'd probably stick to because of that. But you could also say like, that is why. That's also fine. But then what? Let's dig in the books.
I found ʼatángi.
I hit the wrong button. I don't know what's going to happen now. Probably have two things I'll have to splice together. Okay. Where did you find this at?
Under ʼatángi.
So like so what we do, we go find the root, right? So when we hear tig, we're going to go look for tig. And then as we go through there, we're going to say there's an SH that's got to be the classifier group. And that gets us this, shitik, which on its own, like let's say this cup was like really full of hot water and I wanted to carry it, or maybe like the coffee cup makes more sense. So like I need to tense myself so it doesn't spill. And so on its own, tig is frozen or hard, like for the surface is hard or something like that. So there is a phrase, you say ʼatudli.át, steady, like brace yourself. Like I'm about to tell you something really that's going to be kind of bad. But in this case, we do see ʼatjik, which maybe is pushing us in that sort of direction to keep a song steady. And then we go down here and we see, oh, there's the ʼcha built onto it. And we get defending, to question closely, or to interrogate. But that's not real, but we're not getting an SI. So we're going to go one level deeper. We're going to dive into Lear's notes and see what he might have on it. So we'll go down here, down to the T, apostrophe, I, hard. So we go up, keep song steady. And we don't really, I don't think we get an answer. Kaséix, interrogate again, keeping a song steady. So we don't fully get an answer. But when we go back, this was recorded by ʼatútin Mallory Story, and the speaker is Kaséix, Selena Everson. And luckily she talked to her about this particular verb. So there's a number of things that we kind of get that are related to this. One would be from Walter Soboleff, who there was this phrase, ʼatudli.át, which he would interpret as weigh your words. ʼatudli.át. So we see in that case, it's a little bit different because ʼatudli.át is coming before the verb, right? And it's disconnected. It's kind of floating out there. So that chush is the pronoun or the possessive pronoun as opposed to the object pronoun. When we come back into here with Kaséix, well, what she was saying is this ʼatudli.át is because of that, people watch what they say. And so it's like you're holding your mouth steady. There's a bit of a metaphor there. It's almost like you're just really holding on to your mouth. But in this case, and I'll go back to Yatutin and how she has a translation of this as well. So, and again, what the underlying X is doing here is it's putting it into this repetitive imperfective mode, right? So it happens regularly. That's what this is doing.
Just.
Oops.
Just.
Chush, chush, chush. C-H-E.
Just.
Probably more
H-inch.
that.
Yeah, chest.
So that's usually like just.
Reverence, you revere things you don't. I can't get the word for revere. No, revere, respect.
Oh,
So she's kind of talking through. So we're just moving along. So sometimes as you do this work, you're like, there's sometimes some judgment calls to make. Like, should you be? And there are some people who say you should be writing down every single thing they say, so we could see how they put it together. And I'm not against that. For our purposes, we're going to skip to the next language act as she's sort of. And as you do this work too, it's always good if the speaker is still around to show it to them, and just say because there's been times where I've worked with speakers, and that they kind of. There was a part where they were searching for just a certain word that just kind of escaped them for whatever reason. And as we worked with them, they said, cut that part out. I don't want you to write down that I was asking somebody how to say it. And I'm like, oh yeah, no problem.
ʼatángi ʼatángi ʼatángi
ʼatángi ʼatángi.
How am I going to write this last part?
IDEN, DEIN. DULTINX underline.
Sheesh. Okay.
Was there a clock at the beginning of that or not?
Oh, that's a good question.
ʼatángi ʼatángi
I think she said ka twice.
ʼatángi ʼatángi.
So there's another speaker she sort of was talking to, and they started to say something, and then she sort of just, it came to her kind of what she wanted to say next. How are we going to interpret this one? ʼatángi, ʼatángi.
People's language was well watched over.
And so we get this tlingit. So, we might go take a peek at that. Just, we encounter a verb, there might be something going on at the end that we want to sort of investigate a little bit more. So we go down to, I don't think oh, there it is. So we'll scroll down and see, and there it is. So another repetitive imperfective. So we see, again, there's just, in terms of how we interpret this stuff, like this happens on a regular basis. And so again, like sometimes, I eat Cheerios. I just eat them on a regular basis. Something I have in my cupboard and that's what I eat. This one would be every single morning, that's what I have. But if it's something, it's in the rotation, then it's sort of like this thing. So going back, so then there might be ways we sort of take a look at this. So we got word order decisions to make. We sort of interpret this stuff. So you could just say, people watch what people say. There's different ways you could sort of look at these things, especially as you look at what's the fourth person doing here. Do we need to have, like, you could say the way people talk is watched. That's another thing. So whether you're going to use people twice or once, we'll move on. But as you become the translators, those will be decisions for you to make. And then you can go make your books and go do rad things. The first, I want to share with you guys, the first version of this book is out now. So this is the one we were working on for years now, with all these little short stories. And so it's about 150 pages. It turned out, it's really nice looking. I'm trying to figure out how to handle, like, distribution so that we're all paying, like, just the cost of printing. I do think for the moment Amazon's the way to go in terms of how it's high quality print. It's pretty easy to set up, but the problem is it charges double. So there's got to be some way, like, where I could buy it and then just, but I don't want to distribute it. I'm not organized. I'm not gonna make it to the post office. But trying to work with Gold Belt and other groups to see if someone wants to just take the lead and just buy, like, maybe 100, but it still needs to be spell checked. I'm a bad speller. There's still some things I'm learning about attributive prefixes and stuff like that. So, but what the heck, that shouldn't stop us from doing stuff. So, all right, let's see what's next.
Adia awune kadad atu kudziti. Adia awune kadad atu kudziti. Adia awune kadad atu kudziti. Adia awune kadad atu kudziti.
Adia awune ʼatudli.át ʼatángi. Is it? ʼatángi.
And then we'll listen one more time.
Kadad atu kudziti.
So I would probably say this is a two and not a two. Okay, translators, gotta help me out here.
Adia awunet kadad atu kudziti.
Maybe it's two. I have to. So in some way, I think I'm here. Like, let's listen one more time.
Adia awunet kadad atu kudziti.
Yeah. So because in some ways I might be expecting two, but you shouldn't have two and a verb in the same sentence. So there's pieces there. How do we put them together?
With atuwu kudiki is everything has a spirit inside.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so this.
ʼatudli.át, everything, atuwu kudiki.
Yeah. So in Tlingit thinking, things have two and things have yakwaheqo. So they have both. And there's actually quite a bit different, right? So two could be thoughts, intentions, emotions, desires, spirits. And a yakwaheqo is also a spirit, but just sort of a different way to look at that. It's maybe a little bit absent of the desires and the day-to-day sort of intentions. So it almost seems to me in Tlingit, when the old way of thinking is when somebody does pass away, the tubu is kind of gone, but the yakwahe carries on. But how are we going to translate the sentence?
Well, the first part's about respect.
Of everything around us.
Yeah. Well, so like the katat, we have that part, but then we have a tuwukudzati. So, you know, just in terms of like, and this is the spot where sometimes we live in between these languages, right? Where it's like, okay, I can get what that's doing in Tlingit. And this is what the Downhowers would talk about a lot. It's like, how can you get English to do the same thing? Sometimes you gotta just push it. And so sometimes there's some word orders things, there's some punctuation things. You might even add some things that aren't even in there in the Tlingit sometimes, just because Tlingit, languages do things in different ways, right? So you might, there's different ways you could do it. You could say respect. You could do something like this, or you could say respect all things. They have a spirit. They have, you know, they have feelings. And so it's really interesting to do this work because you could always throw a footnote in there too, be like, yeah, this could be this or that or that or this other thing or this other thing. Okay, we got one more. We gotta do that. Maybe this is
Like it is saying like they're alive. You know, that respect all things, they're alive.
right. Right. So they have a living presence, right? Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, waha idus tuun hasish kohast. Yeah, waha idus tuun hasish kohast.
Yahweh ha'idus tuan hasisko has, like that's the way they taught it to us, our grandparents.
So whenever we get this stuff with like a fourth person and then something with the ergative marker afterwards, I usually would try and think about that, right? Because I know the speaker could say, But there's some reason why fourth person goes into like, everybody was teaching this stuff to us, right? It becomes these bigger conceptual things. I would probably come back through this and as a personal decision, capitalize the has, just because for me that becomes a proper noun. But those are decisions that, you know, as you go forward and become the translators that we're gonna make your own books, those will be the decisions that you can make. But we can also talk about this stuff too and try and figure out where are the things that we need to come to some consensus on. And then in terms of the translation acts, and I like the dialogue, so that we're not really pushing for a right or wrong type of thing, but just sort of saying, yeah, there's multiple ways. This is interpreting, you know, ʼatudli.át. This isn't just, oh yeah, this equals that, because they're different languages and different thought worlds. Okay, good cheese. Well, that was fun. That was a great chunk of audio that ʼatudli.át shared. And I asked her if we could just bring it to class and share it with the gang as a good listening exercise. There is lots and lots of recorded Tlingit out there. If you want to practice some of this stuff, let me know. If this is part of, there's places to sometimes get paid for this kind of work. We're trying to find more ways to do that as well, so that folks can do this and we can contribute to just more and more publications. We need things on the shelf, even if they're not perfect. The nice thing about doing on-demand publication is you can fix it pretty fast, you know, and then you can just upload a new version. You don't even have to have a second edition or anything. So in the past, you would have 1,000 of these books and you had to put little pieces of paper in there and note all the places there were errors. So, but now we just sort of say, that's part of life. So we'll just change it. And then some people have the error edition and some people have the non-error, or just the edition with fewer errors, because I'm sure they all have errors. So people give me a hard time about some of this stuff, but I'll give them a hard time right back. So good to teach you.
I like hearing some of those phrases like hold your mouth steady. It's like watch what you say, weigh your words in everything they did. All of those things are, you know, they're the kind of phrases that we would want to be able to know how to say.
Right. Yeah. And so those are important. And then when we get into the, in the Raven stories, there's a number of times where he's yelling at people and they'll say, what do they say? Nobody paid him any mind, you know? And so that's kind of fun too, to just sort of, to look at it from that angle. And so just continuing to expand like our vocabulary and also just pulling these cultural concepts in. Like, so they're teaching kids Tlingit, and then she turns and wants to share this chunk of vital information that shows us this stuff. And we've talked about this stuff before, like you can't, just because you say ʼatudli.át doesn't mean that you're being respectful in your work and your actions. And what does that mean? Like when they say ʼatudli.át, like can you live that? Can you make that into your day-to-day operations? And that's why this stuff is important to keep coming back to. And then that becomes the part of our teachings as well. So hopefully the ones that we teach will be saying to someone else, because that's what we want it to be, is like we didn't alter some of those core things. Those core values came to us and then we passed them along through this type of work. Okay. Good to cheese, Shuhan. What should we talk about on Monday? Do we need a subject? I feel like we need a subject. Let's start class out.
The origin of copper.
Oh yeah.
It's off the top of my head. No.
Oh, yeah. Been thinking about it. And that record, it's from 1904, and it's from like kind of secondhand field notes that Zeosh retyped. So It's not the easiest thing to work with, but I want to give you something a little challenge. I got challenge every now and then. There were speakers who every time I'd see them, they'd say, "Ik kodeek." I'm gonna challenge you, and then they'd say something really hard to me. So I'm like, I got to pass that way of teaching along as well. It's like, hey, they used to corner me, and I used to do this live on the spot. I'm giving you guys time, resources. Yeah, so we'll work on that a little bit. We'll do the future. Those will be our two sort of class projects. To start us off, why don't we talk about change of seasons and weather? That's something we can sort of, that's pretty relevant. Then I'll share some resources that have a few different things that I found about leaves falling, changing colors, wind blowing, just all that stuff. We'll start with a conversation about change of season and weather patterns, and then we'll move into our classwork. Just to give you guys a little something to warm up for. I like to have the opening of class be in Tlingit so that we can speak Tlingit, right? That's what we're here for. Yak good cheese, Johan. Wishik achtustin.
Good cheers.
Selena is such a nice, clear speaker. Thank you for using that audio.
Yeah, she was so wonderful. Yeah.
Next, buenas noches.
Ay, Juan.